Hey, what's good, everyone? Welcome to episode one, where today I'm going to be talking about my opinions on fat people. And I know this is going to be controversial, but before I start, I just want to say I'm not fat phobic or anything. When I do see fat people, I will have assumptions about them, but I don't really like treat them any differently, or I'm not going to discriminate against them. Because yeah, a little background information about myself is I was never obese, but I was overweight for some time, and yeah, I got made fun of for it, so I know how it feels, but at the same time, yeah, I just knew changes had to be made, and it's really about saying it in a non-negative way. So yeah, before I start, I will say there is one exception to being fat, and that's pregnancy fat, because obviously in that stage of life, there's more important things than your own health, and that would be your child's health, and just making sure that they're okay and stuff. Now, with that said, once your child is like 2 or 3, and you don't have to worry about them as much, you can start spending some more time on yourself. Yeah, it may sound a little messed up, but like you got to get back on the treadmill, okay? And let me explain myself because people are gonna be like, "Oh, you're sexist. Oh, you're misogynist," but that's really not the case here. And the idea is that, as a husband and wife, you guys want to live a happy life together and, die happily together. But the problem is that, that's not going to happen if you don't really recover from that pregnancy fat and you stay fat forever because, health issues are going to happen and then you may end up dying earlier, which would be the worst thing too. And then really it's also about being there for your kid. Um in a lot of families, the husband is working all day and usually can't be there for their kid when, their kid wants someone to be around, and that's why the mother is usually there. And, how is that kid gonna have someone to play catch with if if their mother can't really move around very well or like, you know what I'm saying? So hopefully that gives some insight on it. And just so we're clear, like when it comes to actually hating fat people, I don't hate is a very strong word. There are certain types of fat people that I do dislike, and I'll get into that. But first, we'll talk about the types of fat people I do respect. So the first one, once again, mothers, pregnancy fat, just totally okay. And the second one would be fat people that are trying to better themselves. And so, for example, if I see like a fat guy like walking around on the streets or going on a run, or even more, if I see a fat person in the gym, um, yeah, I have full respect for that person because they're trying to better themselves. And yeah, that's another thing. It's really just about not being lazy. One second, this is going to be a tough level to get past. Yeah, and the idea is it's really just about not being lazy. And people are going to be like, oh, but gym memberships are too expensive and stuff like that. And I'll say this, if your goal is to just get in shape, you don't need a gym membership. It's really that simple. Cardio is free, so if you have a safe neighborhood, you could just walk around there. And if you don't have a safe neighborhood, you could just walk around in your own house. Like it's not that hard. And then you know what else is free? Calisthenics, especially push-ups. Like you don't really need anything for that. If you have a clean floor, yeah, you can do push-ups. Those are free. So yeah, with that said, there's really not very many excuses to be fat, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, but genetics and all that." Well, both my parents were overweight too, and yeah, genetics is gonna get in the way, but that's not really an excuse. The only excuse really is again just pregnancy fat because there are more important things at that time. And people are gonna be like, "Oh, but work and stuff, that's also important," which is true. But especially if you're a student and you're trying to get a job, let me tell you, man, looks are very, very important. And yeah, even if you're in shape and you're ugly, like it's not gonna change the fact that you're ugly, but it'll be a lot better than if you were ugly and fat. So hopefully that gives some perspective. And yeah, I've seen both sides of this before. I've seen guys that were yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but they were really stupid. But the thing is, because they looked good, people liked them and they were able to get good jobs. And then I've seen it the other way around too. There's some people that were really smart, but not very pleasant to look at. And because of that, they didn't really get to use their skills to their maximum ability and had to settle from other type of jobs. I hate to say it, this maybe could be another episode, but yeah, looks might just be the most important thing in the world more than intelligence. Because again, I've seen it. I've seen people that were some of the dumbest people I've seen, but they were good looking, and yeah, they were able to get away with so many things, get to meet so many people, have more connections, all that fun stuff. Ooh, 1 second, let's just try to get past this part. Yeah, so hopefully that gives some perspective on it. Once again, like I said, if you're ugly, you can't really change the fact that you're ugly. But there's a lot you can definitely do about it to make yourself look better. You could get in shape, go to the gym, all that fun stuff. And once again, if you can't afford a gym membership or you're afraid it's too much of a commitment, that's really just not an excuse. So yeah, you don't have to get a gym membership, but you really mean to tell me that you can't walk 15 minutes per day? You're telling me that you're so busy, spending 3 hours on social media, sleeping for 8 or 9 hours a day, spending an hour at your meal times. You're really telling me you can't spend 15 minutes a day going on a walk? And I'm not even saying go on a run because honestly, I'm not a huge fan of running. So 15 minutes of walking per day, I think, is very reasonable. And I don't really think there's much of an excuse to not be able to do that. I mean, I suppose if you're in a wheelchair, I guess. But yeah, and then how about doing 10 push-ups per day? You know what? No, no, no. Not even 10. 5 push-ups per day. You mean to tell me that you can't even do 5 push-ups per day? That's honestly just kind of a pathetic excuse. Now, if you can't do push-ups, that's fine. They have so many variations. You can do like wall push-ups, push-ups on your knees. There's a lot of different variations, so I don't think there's an excuse to not be able to do 5 push-ups, which probably takes around less than like around 30 seconds. 5 push-ups, 15 minutes of walking per day. And yeah, I really don't see how people wouldn't find an excuse to not be able to do that. I feel like another thing is a lot of people think you have to do some like high intensity exercises to lose weight. Look, again, I've been overweight and I lost weight. I'm still on the heavier side, but I'm not overweight anymore. And no, I don't want to play more. And yeah, honestly, like it's not that hard. You don't have to do any intense exercises. You don't even have to do push-ups. Honestly, just do like a yeah, like a 15-minute walk per day. For me, I usually did around like an hour-long walk just because I had more time since it was during COVID. But yeah, I think a 15-minute walk is more than reasonable. Maybe going on like a 15-minute bike ride as well. And then yeah, then comes the most important part of losing weight, which would be your diet. Now this I've heard some funny I've heard some funny excuses in my lifetime for this. It's like, "Oh, I have to eat this much." It's like, "No, you don't, bro. You mean to tell me, say you eat like 3,000 calories a day. You're telling me for a week you can't maybe go down and cut down to 2950 calories per day? That's just an excuse to me. Like, you're weak. You know, that 50 calories, that might just be like one cookie. So out of all the things you eat, you're telling me you can't eat one less cookie every week? That's just cap, man, because again, I've seen it with other people's eating styles. Like with every meal, they'll consume like one large soda, which has so many calories in it, or anytime they eat like a pancake or something, they're just gonna smother syrup all over it. And you're telling me you can't cut down your calories by 50? Like that, come on, that is complete BS. And honestly, as a society, we got to do better and just stop being lazier about this type of stuff. Is here's the thing. It's going to have a consequence on yourself. You're not going to live as long as you thought. You're going to have health problems later on in life. But really, it's going to have problems for people that you really care about because say you have kids or just like younger people that rely on you, you're not going to be able to be there for them. What's going to happen if your kid wants someone to play catch with, but his parents can't even get up? It is really sad. And yeah, that will bring me to the next part, which is once again, I don't. I There are types of fat people that I do respect, like those that are trying to make a change, but there are some fat people that I find to be really annoying, and those are the ones who have gained large followings on social media because of their weight and have been using that to promote a fat lifestyle. And look, honestly, I didn't want to really bring him up into this, but I'm gonna bring up Andrew Tate for a second. Now, Andrew Tate, I'm not a big fan of. I do find him to be kind of funny, but definitely his views are very harmful, and I know a lot of kids have been acting differently because of it, and like parents and teachers have been having problems with having to deal with their kid. But that's an issue for a whole nother thing. And the idea is that Andrew Tate got banned for saying all this hateful stuff. But what about all these fat influencers who are allowed to stay on social media despite saying very harmless things promoting their fat lifestyle? It's like, bro, no one wants to live like you. Stop telling these kids that it's okay to be fat because let's face it, it's not okay. Like how these guys got a big following in the first place, I never really understood that, you know? I guess, I guess that's just part of this new generation now because, man, let me tell you something. Um, I see in my high school that there was a fat guy who was actually really popular, and I liked him. He was a nice guy, but had that been like 5, 10 years ago, that guy would have that guy was not being popular. No, people would not have treated him the same. And the problem is this whole fat acceptance thing. Like, yeah, I like that we're being more tolerant in other ways, race wise, sexuality wise. But weight wise is one of those things where we have to be a little more strict about it because, again, it can really hurt the people that care about you, that rely on you. Damn, I I even forgot where I was going. But yeah, that anyways brings me to my last point about or I guess I'm gonna continue on that same point about these fat influencers who I think are the worst. I think they need to have their stuff banned. It just doesn't make sense, how these guys are allowed to spread these harmful comments around, but guys like Andrew Tate get banned for saying, honestly, like, again, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff Andrew Tate says, but he has motivated me to work harder, to be more confident. Obviously, I don't listen to anything he says about how you should treat women, but when it comes to other things, he has some really good points. But meanwhile, these fat influencers are, um, they want you to be lazy. That's the idea. They're encouraging a lazy lifestyle over everything. And yeah, like call me a villain if you want, but when I see a fat person, I'm gonna assume they're lazy because I don't remember where I heard this quote from, but I heard this quote from somewhere. It's like, the way it's like if you look good, like people will see that you demand respect from yourself. And if you demand respect from yourself, you're gonna demand respect from how am I supposed to get okay. Yeah, the idea is like if you demand respect from yourself, you're gonna demand respect from others. But when I see a fat person, you clearly see that they don't have respect for themselves. They're lazy, they don't care about themselves. And that's why they just let themselves go like that. And yeah, these fat influencers are basically saying, "Oh yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah, just join us, be like the rest of us." It's like, no, no one wants to be like you. Any reasonable person knows that no one wants to be like you. Okay, we don't want to be a slob. We want to have our life in order. Look good and hopefully benefit because of that and live a long, healthy life. We don't want to be like you. Who's gonna suffer heart conditions and diabetes early on in life and probably have a lower life expectancy. Like, and see, here's the problem. A lot of kids, they have issues with their weight. And, I was one of those kids too, for a long time. So I would say I've been overweight for about like 2 to 3 years, but I definitely have been on the heavier side all my life. So for me, slimming down has always been a bit of a tough process for me. And there definitely have been times where, I was close to getting overweight, but like I was able to bring it down just in time, because I did play a lot of sports too. So, but the problem is, so the idea is like a lot of kids, they struggle with this too. And, they have to, for kids, it is unfortunate because they do have to work hard to get back in shape. But with these fat influencers rolling around, it's just like, oh, you know what? You actually don't have to stay in shape. Yeah, just be like us, and it's totally fine. And yeah, you're just spreading all. It's basically propaganda, honestly. Like, you're basically just telling these kids that it's okay to be fat when it's really not. And yeah, I mean, that's really all I had to say about that. Let me know your thoughts on the topic, and yeah, hopefully I'm gonna come up with some more episodes pretty soon. I have some other opinions to talk about, but that was my opinion on fat people. I don't necessarily hate fat people, but I definitely do dislike the fat influencers and how they're corrupting kids. And it's very hypocritical to me how guys like them can stay on their social media platform and guys like Andrew Tate get banned. And once again, I'm not an Andrew Tate fan, so let's not get it twisted there. So yeah, that's all I got for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.